Your home can be more than just a home. It can be your own personal fitness retreat, a place where you break a sweat, break your personal record, or just get a break in the day. Johnson Fitness and Wellness is your partner in creating the perfect home gym. And now, enjoy up to 50% off top-rated treadmills, ellipticals starting at $5.99, and major discounts on strength equipment. Visit a local store or johnsonfitness.com. Your home gym is just a few steps away.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to Sunday Talk with Kellie and Lisa. I am Kellie.
Hi, I'm Lisa.
Today we are starting to talk about your money story and what it is. In my experience as a life coach through the years, I've found that most people who have some kind of an issue with money have been deeply traumatized. And that traumatizing isn't always specifically linked to money. Trauma is a really complicated thing. But as it pertains to money, if you've been traumatized or someone has told you you don't deserve money or you don't deserve good things, someone once told me I didn't deserve to live. So all of those kinds of things affect how we view ourselves. You know, often in spite of our best effort, we may be told and we may know intellectually that what we're being told is not true, but it still is very hurtful. And on some level, it does affect your relationship with every aspect of your life, including your aspect of your life with money. Sorry, I can't talk this morning. I have a headache. But that's kind of what we're talking about today. I know personally, I have gone through so much trauma in my life, beginning in childhood, that told me at every step of the way, every day, every hour of the day, that I was not worthy of anything. When I started coaching, it was amazing to me how many people found their way to me that had kind of the same story. When I started working, every week when I get my paycheck, my mother would demand I signed it over to her. And she said, "You don't need money, I do." Well, that kind of set the stage for decades worth of struggle. And honestly, today I'm still having issues healing some of that. My first husband was incredibly abusive physically. He put me and my daughter in the hospital a couple of times. But again, he told me I was working, he was not. Every time I'd get a paycheck, he would spend it, telling me the same thing my mother had told me. I didn't need money. What did I need money for? I didn't know how to handle money. It was stupid for me to have money, so somebody else needed my money. It wasn't until I got out of that abusive marriage that I started building for the first time in my life a relationship with money. And I took classes. I read books. I had been told my whole life I couldn't have it. So I was trying to find out why. Why can't I have this? And everything I learned told me that they were all wrong. And that's what I'm telling you who are listening today. No matter what you've been told about money, no matter what trauma you've gone through, they're wrong. You can do anything you want. You can have the money you want. You can have the house you want, the car you want, whatever it is you want. You can have it. But it doesn't start with a vision board. It doesn't start with going to meditation classes. It doesn't start with talking to financial investors. It starts with you. It starts with you in a very deep part of you. You have to go into yourself and ask, what is my money story? What was I told about money when I was a child? What was I told about money when I first started working? And do I want to accept that as the truth? Because I'm willing to bet it's not true. I've worked with so many people through the years that it's sort of the money in, money out. And if that's you, that someone along the line, I guarantee it, has told you you don't need money. You don't deserve to have money. So when money comes into your bank account, you're like, oh, I can't have money. I've got to get rid of this immediately. And that's what happens. So if that's you, examine it. Who told you you weren't supposed to have money? You know, trauma is a really, really difficult thing to heal. And you might find it takes a long time. Doesn't mean you can't move forward while you're still healing. It just means you have to be mindful about what you're doing with your money. If you're one of those people that doesn't keep a running balance in your bank account and you just spend until you run out of money, maybe be more mindful in how you're treating money. Because what you're doing is you're telling money, hey, I don't want you here. I don't want money. What do you mean by coming into my bank account? Get out. And it sounds really silly to say, but that's the truth of it. That's what you're doing, is you're sending it out as quickly as it comes in. There's other people that I've coached that it just never came in. It just never, for whatever reason, they could not keep a job. They couldn't find a job. They couldn't manage their money at all. So it came to a point where they were at a complete standstill, and they just didn't have money to worry about. And on some level, they learned in their life that money was hard to manage, or money made people feel bad, or bad people had money. There's all kinds of money stories that we've been taught through our lives. And I don't know what yours is, but you do, and you can find it. So before you start doing vision boards and going to seminars and even to an extent affirmation, before you do any of that and find out it doesn't work for you, before you start telling people it's all hogwash, it doesn't work, do a little more work. Go a little bit deeper and find out what is really your money story. So what do you think, Lisa?
Wow. Good morning, everyone. So there are so many things running through my head when you were opening our show. And the absolute first thing that came to mind is going right back to what we've talked about before. It's a matter of self-love or self-worth. And
right.
Everything is, I was imagining these Venn diagrams when you were talking, because they all overlap. There's the center point of, fixing your money story or having that financial wellness. That's the center of what you're trying to do. And, self-worth and self-love go along with that. But so do so many other things. Healing that trauma, one of the best ways to really start to do the work on healing your money story is trying to go back to the very first memory you have of money. For me,
yep.
I recall Easter egg hunts and finding money in an Easter egg when I was, whether it was a community Easter egg hunt or the one in my home. Many of my memories of money it was just always there. And it was always there for me, but it was never mine. It was somebody was always taking care of me. So when I look back on even my relationships, I can connect them back to that money story. I've always been in relationships where somewhere along the way, I ended up becoming very codependent, actually even more so dependent on the person that I was with. It was their responsibility to take care of me. There was always going to be money, but it was never going to be mine. They were always going to be the ones to provide. And it sucked the living soul right out of me, but it was all of these connections that I could make back to that. So you can start a savings program. You can start small. You can do some of the things, but you also do that simultaneously to healing that money story, rewriting that money story. For me, I was always provided for. It was always there. It might not have been the healthiest of the relationship, but I can change that story to say, look at how the universe provided for me. I know the universe is always going to provide for me. Now I just need to go out and do the work. Or I can change the story to my work for that money, for being provided for, was being a good wife and a good mother to my children, to be there for my family in the ways that my family needed me at that point in time. And look at what happened. I was provided for. A roof over my head. I had food on my table. My children had running water to take a bath. Whatever the case may be, I can rewrite, and it might just be semantics, but words are so very important, and rewrite that story to make it to where I was actually putting in the work to also receive that money. So now I can take this day and the next one and the next one and the next one and know that money will be there for me because I'm attracting it, I'm manifesting it, I want it, but also I'm working to have that.
Right. And I think that's something that people kind of overlook a lot of the time. I'm kind of on a soapbox about this today because I've been doing readings again, and I had someone yesterday tell me that it's all a bunch of hooey, and that was her word. It's not a word I would ever say. But anyway, that someone had told her all she needed to do was a vision board and focus on what it was she wanted. And she, much like you were just talking about, somebody was always taking care of her. But her husband passed away a couple of years ago, and she never knew. She was never taught how to handle money. So she's been in crisis mode. And, there's a lot of things going on there. There's grief. There's, the trauma of him dying, and he had a long illness, so it was very, very sad. And it left her completely, someone's always taking care of me, I'm lost now. And she told me, because she had worked with other coaches who were all about the vision board, which honestly I've never liked, but she said it doesn't work. So she's going around telling people it doesn't work. Well, maybe it didn't work for her because she wasn't ready for it. And when you're working towards something, and usually working towards the goal means you've got a job, you've got money coming in, you have an income. But in her case, he left her with enough money where she should be fine. And she just doesn't know what to do. And my advice to her was, don't do any vision boards. You're frustrating yourself. And sometimes we do that. We are not subconsciously ready to move forward in an area we really, really want to move forward in. So we kind of put pressure on ourselves, and that frustrates us. And then that makes us feel bad about ourselves. Well, why can't I do this yet? What's wrong with me? And that's really, unfortunately, a lot of coaches are overlooking that. You can't help someone get to where they want if they're not on stable footing to start that journey. Because what happens is, like this woman, she, was going along fine. All of a sudden, someone from her bank called her and was asking her about questions about a CD. Do they roll it over? What does she want to do? And she fell apart. Completely fell apart. And that should not have happened. And the reason it did happen is because she was trying to go too fast. And a lot of times when we're talking about our relationship with money, we're trying to go from 0 to 112 in an instant. And that's not the way it works. You know, even if you have had someone taking care of you for, you know, as long as you can remember, it doesn't mean you within yourself have a good relationship with money. And I've heard so many horror stories through coaching with people who have worked with other people. And I don't know what it is about vision boards and affirmations. And I work with affirmations, and that's fine if you're working with something that you're ready for. But sometimes we try to do too much too fast, and it's not good. So I know in the past we've talked a lot about affirmation, and I've used affirmation. Mm-hmm. And when I was in a much worse state of health than I am now, my goal was to get up off the couch and walk around the couch. And my affirmations were, I easily walk around my couch today. They weren't, I easily run a 10K next week. And I think that's what a lot of people try to do, try to go too far too fast. And really, we need to learn to pace ourselves. So
I have so many questions. The first thing is, what in the world was she trying to envision, and how did a coach get to a vision board like that? I don't see the connection there, but that's probably a different show. Vision boards, if you're not a person that is like a visual person, a vision board probably isn't for you. But if you're using a vision board in addition to other things, and you're not just sitting down in front of a vision board expecting all of the pain to go away or all of the trauma to be healed, there's other things that go along with just a vision board. So, that's just kind of an interesting conversation that we might have to have for a different show. But you can use all of these tools, but the key is if you're not ready, it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
If you're not ready, if you're not willing to believe, if you're not willing to accept that you can change and that you can have whatever that is for you, deeper love or more meaningful relationships or money or, a successful career, whatever successful career means for you. If you're not ready to step into that, then, it's not going to happen for you no matter what you do. That's a key part. Acceptance. Yeah. Wanting it deep enough.
I was so troubled by the way this coach handled her that, and I don't know who this coach is, but it was very troubling to me. This woman just lost her husband. They were married for 40 years. It's going to take her a long time to deal with grief. This woman is grieving. Right. Why are you pushing her into doing a vision board?
Right.
In my opinion, that's very poor coaching. But,
she needs a grief counselor.
Where you're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, she needs a grief counselor, but she also needs somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to working with money. Not in a coach way, but in a financial way. A planner or, a Money 101 course or something. And there's information out there on the internet. If she doesn't want to do all the research, she can always contact me. I can help her with that. But there's so many resources, and I know this is not the topic that we wanted to go to, but that's kind of scary territory. And it's coaching like that that give other coaches a bad name. And we can talk about regulating the industry and all of that. That's a completely different topic for a different day, I'm sure, as well. But, you know, that's kind of scary. But I wanted to say something else along this as well. A lot of people are not okay to be in love with that side of scarcity, to be in love with things that are not always good. And it's okay. It's okay to say, you know what? I really do have a relationship with scarcity. I love scarcity. It provides for me. It protects me. And whatever that is for you, you know, it's okay to feel that way about scarcity. And it's also okay to break up with that relationship.
Right. And
I think a lot of people put a lot of guilt around that.
Right. I should do better. The shoulda, woulda, coulda. And those are very, very destructive things. Especially when you're talking about money. In my life, I've made a lot of money. And I've made no money. And it just, what I've realized about myself is it's not money for money's sake. It's the things that I can use money to do. You and I were talking before the show about a fresh food bank. And that is something I've done in the past, and that is something I will do again. But that takes money. So for me, if I have enough money to pay my bills and have my food bank, I'm happy. I don't need, millions of dollars. Some people do really want millions of dollars. Some people want the big house. They want all the fancy cars. That's really not me, but that doesn't mean what they want is wrong. And it doesn't mean that what I'm happy with is wrong. An individual thing. And so often I think we start comparing ourselves to what other people are doing. And that's really not healthy. And if you're one of those people that is comparing yourself to what other people are doing, please stop. Just stop now. Because what anybody else is doing has nothing to do with you or your life or what you're doing. Even if you're in a committed relationship, sometimes what that other person does has nothing to do with you. And I think people have a really hard time with that. If you have a lot of friends that are very financially secure and you're the friend who isn't, sometimes that can cause a lot of trauma just because you start feeling inadequate. And, stop that right now. I don't know personally any good person that picks their friends solely based on the amount of money they earn. Business associates, absolutely, pick the wealthy person if you want to go into business with somebody. But if you're looking for a friend, or if you have friends, and that some of them have been very lucky, yay, be happy for them.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean you are less than. And I think a lot of times we go down that road thinking that we are less than. This person did it, why can't I? Well, because you're not that person.
But you can do it if you go and dig a little bit deeper. And and those patterns that you see of, I'm always the one that's XYZ compared to my friends. Dig deeper. And when I say dig deeper, I mean look really far back, depending on how old you are. Start looking at those early memories. Why? Was your family always associated with people who had money, but you might not have, but they were acting like they were? Is that something that you remember from a child, from being a child? And is that something you carried into your adulthood? Did something else along the way happen that may have knocked you off balance for a little bit and is the result of why you associate with a certain XYZ when you're pretty much a polar opposite from that? And there's nothing wrong with those relationships. But if it's a pattern that creates a problem, with your mental, emotional, psychological state, then that's where, we do need to dig deeper and you can reach out to one of us and get some help with that, because that becomes a situation where that's a pattern that is keeping you from stepping into your best life, whatever the picture of your best life may be. And then it might be none of my business. You might really, really love being the friend that is less than blank, fill in the words there, less money, less, social affluence, or whatever the case may be, less successful, and whatever that word is for you. You might like that, and that's okay. But if it's keeping you from really being the best version of yourself, and if it's really causing those mental, emotional, psychological issues with you, then take a look at why. Why do you continue to allow that pattern? Why are you so upset with it? And where did it start?
Right. And, realize, too, that everything ebbs and flows. There have been times in my life where I've made more money than I could have ever conceived of. And there have been times in my life where I've made nothing. And those times where I made nothing doesn't make me feel unworthy. It makes me feel like, what am I telling myself that has put me in this situation? And I think if we were all more honest with ourselves, we would find our own answers. So many people, I do readings, and so many people want an easy, let's figure this out in 1 hour session. And that's not the way it works. Often it is a very long, drawn-out process. Sometimes it's not so long, but it never happens in one sitting. So I can't tell you how many times I've had someone call me and say, meditation doesn't work. I meditated for 15 minutes the other day, and nothing changed. Wow. Okay. Even when you're dealing with money and not some other aspect of your life, it's a process. It's a process. It isn't going to be overnight. Everyone wants that quick fix. There is no quick fix. You need to stay in touch, not just get in touch with yourself one time to figure out how your money story started, but continue to stay in touch with yourself. And people laugh when I say that, but that's what you're doing. Find the origin of your money story. Find where you think it started. And then periodically check back in with yourself. Am I falling back into old patterns? When you see things cropping up that you've done in the past, that's a time to do a self-check. What's going on in your life? Have you had some upsetting events? Has something happened? During COVID, I can't tell you how many people were just absolutely traumatized by the idea of a pandemic, whether it personally affected them or not. I know people who had COVID. I know people who died of COVID. I also know people who have never known anyone with COVID, got all their vaccines when they were supposed to, stayed home. They are in no danger whatsoever, and yet they were traumatized by it too. So everyone is different, and everyone has different triggers. And when we're talking about money, you have to understand that something that happens in an entirely different aspect of your life will affect how you look at money, even if you don't realize the connection immediately. It just always does. One aspect of your life affects every other aspect of your life. When I was a massage therapist, I had a client who had chronic shoulder pain, and she was on my table one time, and she said, "Wow, do you think the pain in my shoulder is connected to the injury from my arm?" And I lifted her arm, and I said, "You know what? It sure looks like it's connected to the rest of you." And she laughed, and I wasn't sure she got it, but she did. People try to live their lives so compartmentalized. And I know they teach that in business school. I do. I know they teach that. It's not healthy for you. It just is not. Every aspect of your life affects every aspect of your life. And I don't know that I have a whole lot more to say about that today. You have thoughts to add, Lisa?
Well, yes. So I just want to talk about why we're doing this series. And I know some shows are going to be shorter than others, and it might draw out to be a 7-show series. We're not quite sure how it's going to go. Conversations always evolve, of course. So, I decided to do this series with you because I see so many people suffering. There's been a lot of ups and downs in our economy, particularly for the, with the whole pandemic, COVID-19, people losing jobs, people finding jobs, employers not being able to find employees, because there's been this turn of who we are as individuals, and we're no longer going to stand for some things in the corporate world. So a lot of people are in financial crisis right now. The pandemic definitely showed people that finances are important if you want to maintain any certain living conditions. And I know in where I am in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, even the not so nice areas of DFW, the market value on the homes is just astronomical right now. And the apartments that were only $800 have doubled in rent. And so even trying to have a place to live is costing a lot more than what people were bringing home. And now people have the power, the employees have the power to not settle for horrible living conditions or whatever the case may be. It's going to be interesting to see the shift in the employment status. It'd be interesting to see if a lot more AI comes on board to, take the place of those workers and whatnot. And that's a completely different topic and subject and another show for another day. But I'm doing it because, for me, I told everyone part of my story today. The money was always there, so I always ended up in relationships where they might not have been the best relationship at the time. Now I can say, learning lesson, I learned something from that, or it was only supposed to make me stronger or whatnot. But the reality is I was continually wanting to be in the same situation where money was always provided for me. And I have shifted my story of, I was doing the work for the provision. And there were a lot of toxic relationships that I was involved with. For me, I didn't have anything. I barely had a college education. I barely had work experience. There I would have been a single mom. So how was I supposed to go? Where was I supposed to go? How was I supposed to provide for myself? And I am so sick and tired of women feeling that way. It just makes me angry.
Right.
I have to breathe there for a second because I just don't want to get on that soapbox. But my sole goal in life is to help women become financially fit, financially well, and financially secure, so they can leave or stay away from the situations that they are currently, kept them suppressed is the only word coming to mind.
Right. Right. Well,
but it comes from a place of feeling that love and self-worth.
Right. So many women have been treated so horribly that it makes me wonder why anyone ever gets married and has kids, honestly. It's, women seem to be so much more deeply traumatized. And it may be because women tend to feel their feelings more than men do. Maybe men are just as traumatized. They just don't feel like this. But women in particular need more support And it's not that women are weak. Women are very, very, very strong. But sometimes we need someone to lean on. And personally, in my experience, I have found those times when I needed someone to lean on, it wasn't the person I was in a relationship with. It was a friend. Mm-hmm. And, I think that speaks loud and clear to the men that I've been in relationships with, because I haven't found one that I could lean on. So I think women helping women in every aspect of their life, whether they're getting out of an abusive relationship, whether they're just trying to figure things out, whether it's money issues they're having, I think I would like to see more women helping women. And I know that's beginning to happen a lot, but we need more of that.
Yep. I agree.
So I don't have anything else. I've been hoping my headache would miraculously go away, and it's not. If you have anything else, we can continue. Otherwise, I think we're pretty much done.
I just want to leave them with step one. Listeners, step one is getting that journal, going back and remembering your first memory of money. You might have one pop up. Write about it. What did it feel like? What did it smell like? What sounds were in the air? Where were you? Was it heavy? Was it light? Write in detail about that first money memory. Something else might come up that was a memory before that. Keep peeling back until you finally discover that one money memory, and just write about it. Do a free write. Don't try to make the sentences make sense. Don't try to force it. Just write down the memories. It can be bullet style if you're a bullet style writer. It could just be a lot of words, whatever those memories are that you have of that. Do that first. Do that this week. Take the time to sit down with that memory and just write about it. That's all I want you to do. This week's assignment, just remembering. And if there's multiple memories that you want to do, fine. You don't have to stop with just one. You don't have to stop with just one. They probably are all linked in some way or another. So just journal this week about your money memories, and really try to go back to that first one.
Yeah, it's really difficult for a lot of people, but if you persevere, you can get there.
Yep.
And I want to end with this. We're doing something a little bit different. We're starting it. If you would like individual assistance in starting to heal your money story, you can email me. It's Fitzgerald to FITZGERALDTOO@yahoo.com. And Lisa and I or one of us will jump on a call with you. There's an $80 fee for it, but it is so well worth it. You guys have a great week. Please start trying to get to the bottom of your money story. And do not beat yourself up if you find it more difficult than you think it should. So you guys have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Tune in next week for step 2. Bye, everyone.
Your home can be more than just a home. It can be your own personal fitness retreat, a place where you break a sweat, break your personal record, or just get a break in the day. Johnson Fitness and Wellness is your partner in creating the perfect home gym. And now, enjoy up to 50% off top-rated treadmills, ellipticals starting at $5.99, and major discounts on strength equipment. Visit a local store or johnsonfitness.com. Your home gym is just a few steps away.